Hope Springs Eternal. I'm Jay Jackson,
I'm Ricky Ricks.
Katie Lambert.
and we are in part 2 of the 3 parts of exploration of the tenets of the general rules of the United Societies that are a part of the doctrinal heritage of the United Methodist Church. All that to say, we think this is important. And for those of you who aren't United Methodists, our heritage is built upon a movement that began in Europe, in England specifically, and that moved throughout Europe and to a new land across the Atlantic in 2 massive waves of awakening that I suggest had its start through small group ministry led by John Wesley. And I say that with great pride and with great consternation, because we've allowed, even within those Wesleyan traditions that we are a part of, a lot of slippage with regards to small group ministry, accountability, and these general rules. And last week we talked about, I think, the hardest of these, to do no harm. But close behind it is the right way to seek to do good in our lives, through our lives, for the blessing of others as well as the glory of God. So, doing good. Ricky, you're a good guy. I think you seek to do good. What do you think it means to do good within the premises of the general rules?
Well, first of all, I've got a list of names of people that I can give you that would differ than that. But I think it's harder than we think, because I always, when I think about doing good, I think about this story that happened in my life. And it was in the church in Pittsburgh, wonderful people. But for some reason, we had a number of people that were battling through addictions. And I had a friend who was a recovering addict, and I would always call him up, and I would say, what do I got to do? What do I got to do to help them? Now, my intent was good. I mean, it was to do good. And my friend Richard would say, well, first of all, you got to get over trying to be their savior. And that would make me mad because I wanted to do good. I wanted to, save them from themselves. And he would talk to me about giving them space and giving them support in their own journey. And he would talk about them having to hit rock bottom before they could discover what new life was really all about. And so I think, as I've thought about that, I think that it's a place for me. A place for me is to always try to ask of them what they need, and not for me to dictate what I think you need or what is my good on top of you. Because I think as a starting place that offers them respect, which is really hugely important to me, and it makes them the decision maker rather than me, and so I always try to remember that story instead of just I know what's good for you. Let me take care of you. That kind of thing.
Yeah, the difference between charity and mission, right? We want to do good to make us feel good about ourselves rather than to really do what is in the best interest of the one
Sure,
who is
sure.
receiving that service, that attention. Wesley had a saying I wanted to throw in here before we get too far along the line. At least this is how it's quoted. I've heard it in many different forms. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. In essence, Wesley says this should be an all-encompassing endeavor for us,
Yeah.
a wide-spanning, non-confined goodness that we are called to. Sounds a lot like God and the way in which we've come to know God through Jesus Christ, in the way in which what Christ did was not self-serving, but selfless, and was directed in a way that all could have the opportunity of the benefits of what Christ sought to do. And yet, we are so uniquely different. Katie, how do we do all the good we can in such a diverse and dysfunctional world?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know what, I don't remember who said this, but they talked about helping the one as though you were helping 100. Do for the one what you wish you could do for the 100. And I think if each person did that, and I think so many are, I think that that's something that I'm an optimist. I like to look on the bright side of things, but I can skew sometimes towards either being, sober and more realist, or occasionally pessimism and just looking at the things that are going wrong in the world. But I look around and I see people trying in a lot of invisible ways, but I think that the Spirit gifts us, and people are offering their presence, and people are offering their time, and people are offering their resources in different ways, and there's still a lot of need. And Jesus says that there will always be the needy among you, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to be part of the solution to that. That we shouldn't try to enact the kingdom in our midst. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody does that in a diversity of ways. I think that for somebody who is medically inclined to offer it in helping out with services at maybe low-income clinics or crisis pregnancy centers or things like that, where they're able to, is beautiful. I've witnessed dentists give free makeovers or just, at cost or lower cost makeovers to people on their teeth to help them get jobs, because, first appearances do matter. And I've seen lawyers give pro bono legal services to people, and just all sorts of things that are people using their gifts for good. And I think that those real world applications are so much more meaningful than people just quitting their jobs and moving to where they assume the most need is, when it's probably right there, right where you are, is right where your mission field is right where God planted you to be a missionary, is right where you are. And in the sphere of space around you, and the time and the people and in your presence. And so I think that's how we do it, is we allow God to actually use us and other people, and we uplift the diversity within each other, and not say it only has to be done this way. That's silly, because it doesn't.
Yeah. I think for me, it's not just taking the time to get to know the situations of other people so as to hear what it is that they desire from me, or what would be in their best interest, but to really try to check my own motivations so that I'm doing good for the purposes of doing good and not to just feel good about myself. To really start to see the other as important, rather than having everything come through my lens of my life and what it is that I want to be. I just keep finding, as I grow older, this sense of the selflessness. I just say it over and over and over again because it's when we get out of the way to understanding what can we do in alignment with God's desire here that really is to the benefit of others who make this journey with me. And particularly as it was understood within these small groups, to really know that you weren't there just for your own journey, which might have been the initial motivation for many of them. I want to be in this group so I can avoid the wrath to come, that I can be saved. But to really start to understand the best medicine for us is the one that is selflessly in the best interest of other. And that when we can do that, then we're going to get poured into by others in like fashion that is uplifting and more faithful than our own selfish intentions of being a part of a group or finding something for ourselves. That oftentimes it's found when we look beyond ourselves. I just keep finding that the things that I think I want for myself aren't satisfying to me, but when I'm able to be in tune with something somebody else needs, there's where I find the greatest gift to myself.
I think that's right. I think for us to watch and to listen, and I think also for us to be intentional, that every day when I get up, I'm going to live my life to help somebody else's life be better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't sound too religious, but I mean, that's kind of the talk I give myself to how am I going today to make somebody's life better?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's simple things. I don't think it's complex. I am very hopeful because I think this is happening all around us. I think about Brenda and the folks at Newgate, and their dog food and cat food ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not cheap, but they are people lined up for dog food and cat food because their pets give them comfort and
they'll go hungry to feed their pet,
yeah.
but by having resources for their pets, then they'll actually take care of themselves better. Yeah.
And my mom, I talked about this when I preached the other day, but my mom just buys boxes and boxes of cheese crackers, and she gives them to the postman. She gives them to the garbage men. She gives them to the yard people. She puts them in little brown sacks and puts them out for them. And my mom, I was like, I mean, she's 86. She's on fixed income and all of that. And you will say, well, why do you do that? And she says, well, you know why. And I do, because she believes in her own way in God's love. And she believes that we're all called in whatever ways we can to build people up around us. And I mean, this church is full of people that are doing those kind of things in some ways we'll never even know about, but they are just living it and sharing it. And I think that's what you're talking about. I think those people are magnetic. I mean, people see that and they say, yeah. and and people either join with them or find their own space. But I think that's just an exciting thing to do.
Yeah. There is something about simple acts of kindness
Yeah.
and the rippling effects and the magnifying effects of just doing simple things. In fact, most of Jesus' teachings were focused on basic necessities.
Right.
You know,
Cup of
feed the
water.
hungry,
Yeah.
bring clothing to the naked, care for the sick, and we act like, wow, these are such big asks, and they're just the basic necessities of what we need ourselves, that everyone needs. Everyone should have the opportunity to be as healthy as they can be, to have shelter, to be fed, and yet we can become so self-involved and so callous as to deny the hunger of a child, the impoverished living conditions of the elderly, the hurt and pain of the mentally ill, where there's no systems or structures of care, and quite frankly, at times act as though their problem is getting in the way of the true joy we're wanting to have by having excess. I have to check myself at times about what it is that I want versus what it is that I really do need and what is the need of others. It's a challenge still in my life to be aware enough of the excesses of my life. I don't think I'm, how would I say this? It would be easy to point to the excesses of the billionaires and the ultra rich, but my goodness, I waste more than I use. And I think when we start to really get down to it, everyone has the opportunity to share in something that makes another's life better, to do good, to take care of even just the most basic of needs in our world that still seem to be at the heart of most of our biggest problems. I mean, clean water, proper nutrition, proper shelter, proper security and protection, the opportunity to exist without fear are still at the root of most of our biggest problems in our world, in our community, in our own families.
And I would say just the gift of seeing you and making space for each other in our lives, in our world, and that you matter. I mean, that you can say to people in countless ways or actions, your life matters and it has value. I think, like, there's just a lot of times people, when someone dies, they'll say, oh, I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do. When the reality is all people need is for you to come alongside them and to give them space for their grief or whatever they're feeling, and to say, I see you and I'm here with you. I think that there's a lot of places where the fundamental thing that people need is to be seen as a child of God, valued, however you want to talk about that.
Yeah, they say this all that I hear this often. I don't want to say all the time. I hear this often that many within the homeless community are not nearly as much wanting people to come to solutions for what are their apparent problems. They just want to be seen and not ignored. They want to know that they're not invisible. And we're trying to solve complex problems when really they just want to have their humanity valued and their presence acknowledged, which is a pretty simple ask if you think about it, and yet one that maybe we overlook for the things that we think we want to offer in that way. I must say that I find myself more deeply challenged to take the time, which is one of my challenges, to really allow people to share with me what it is they need before I try to do good, rather than imposing what I know they need or should have.
We pastors are terrible about that. And I mean, as a general group. And I remember one time Tricia and I know this never happens in y'all's house, but we were, something was going on, and Tricia was, giving me what was the crisis. And so I started off with these words, well, you need to, and I was going to solve it and all of that stuff. And she said to me, I don't need you to be my pastor. I need you to be my friend. And I think there's a lot of that in the world. I mean, there are things that need to be solved, and there are issues that need to be addressed. But I think, when Jesus did that, when he said, you're going to have, I've gone blank. No longer do I call you, but I call you friend. Sorry, I'm blank. I'm getting old. But I just think that gift of kindness, of friendship, is at the heart of everything, that we are community. And how do I care for my brother and sister? How do I treat you as my brother and sister? Kindness, respect, whatever you want to call it.
I've found even people who are great care providers, who are really responsive, good people, have to be helped to learn that sometimes the best good you can do is to let people do something good for you.
Yeah.
That the refusal of help is a harm that we do to others.
Absolutely.
Because we're not giving them the opportunity. I also tell them that if they're not getting the right kind of help, that maybe they should be a little more clear on what it is that is helpful in that way. But I found myself counseling people, learning how to do good by giving people the opportunity to help them. Because they want to. They want to be able to be that way. And that sometimes what we think is, no, that someone else needs that more than me. No, I need to be able to receive that with gracious acceptance so that others can, that may be my best good to you. I know that every mission trip I ever went on, the person who was receiving that gift gave me something much greater than anything I was ever able to do. I'm not the greatest, handiest person in the world, but even if I was, the best to do, fix it kind of person, there's so much more that we can receive from people than what we give to them. And sometimes the greatest gift is to be able to accept the gift that others offer to us.
I do think, too, we talked a little bit about this last week, but I think part of doing good sometimes is saying no. That this is not holy. This is not of God. This does not build up people. And that we have to name things at times and just say, that's never comfortable. I mean, it's when you were talking last week about the pacifist thing and the tension that brings. But I think sometimes we just have to name those things, and people may not get it, but it is still the best good that we can give in those moments.
Yeah. I know one of the greatest places I've had to seek forgiveness, the mercy of God and others, has been in my frenetic activity to get something just the way I believe it needs to be and ignoring the countless opportunities that are before me that I've overlooked because of my focus into what I think will make something better, more perfect, more complete. That oftentimes I've found myself, the diversion is the place that I should actually find my purpose rather than the purpose that I was intentioning for myself. To not allow the space for an encounter with somebody, that may be the place where I can do the most good rather than the things that I came in with as my agenda for a situation. Katie, you've been very quiet during this session. What would you add to our conversation about how to do good, especially all the good that we can?
I mean, I love that quote by Wesley that I think sometimes it is as simple as that. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, every chance you can. And there are sometimes you can't. And that's a reality that we are limited human beings. We're not endless. We are not infinite. We are not unceasing. Like, we are not the Energizer Bunny. That battery just never runs out. We don't have this unending wallet that can help all poverty in all places. We don't have all knowledge that end all these unjust systems or whatever, but there is some good that can be done in almost every situation. It can be a word, it can be words of affirmation, it can be your presence or time, it can be, a silent or unnoticed, invisible act of love, or act of good, and it could be learning or relearning, deconstructing old ways by reading books like When Helping Hurts or Toxic Generosity or Charity. I can't remember the exact words of that book, but Toxic Charity maybe, that talks about how missions have kind of become about this savior mentality and how to do missions well. And even the word missions has kind of become used in such a way that some people are called to missions and some people are not. When no, all of us as disciples are called to do good. And I think these two go hand in hand, what we talked about, do no harm and do good. And those simple questions of, in my life today, how can I do no harm? Or is this doing harm? Or is this doing good? And choosing to do good. I mean, was it Moses or somebody who, I think it was, that said, each day set before you is life or death. Choose life. Choose life. And I think sometimes it just takes that 1 second of each moment set before you is good or harm. Choose good. Choose good. Each word, each thought, are these two things, life or death, good or harm? And choose life. And that doesn't mean that you're going to save the world, and it doesn't mean that you're going to solve every little thing that you want to solve, and we all want to, hopefully. But you can do some good everywhere. And even if the best good you can do is refusing to do harm in that moment, sometimes that's the best. I mean, that's better than good. That's better than a lot of the things that I choose all the time. But I think, we are Methodists at heart because of some of these methods, these classes and things like that, these small groups. But, I'm a Methodist because of Wesley's emphasis on mission, on actually doing good, on taking seriously the words of Jesus to do good, to offer the cup of water, to visit people in prison, to, welcome the stranger, to do these things. And so I do think sometimes we say, oh, well, do the good you can. I said it earlier on this podcast. Just do the good you can in your sphere of influence. But I think sometimes we have to say that the words of Jesus put real implications on our lives, of saying sometimes we have to speak hard truth to ourselves of, if we've set up a life on like these golden brick roads that never lead us into homeless communities or never lead us into uncomfortable situations where we are having to get over ourselves, where we are having to actually live out the gospel, live out the words of Jesus. It says, go visit these people in prison. And I don't know about you, but on my everyday, I don't stumble upon being in a prison where I can visit somebody. I would have to intentionally go and seek that out. And so I think there are times where we can say, oh, just do good. Oh, just do good. And that is good. That is good. And we should do that. But I think sometimes we have to say, I am not doing good. And it's by sheer laziness, and it's by sheer lack of obedience, even. And we hate that word. I like that. I hate that word, and my husband hates that word.
Sometimes we have to do the thing we don't want to do.
But we do. We have to follow that quote and to follow and to take seriously the words of Jesus. It has to have real implications on our lives, and to say, well, to answer like the people did in the Gospel of Matthew, well, when did I see you sick or in prison or naked or hungry? I mean, I would have every reason to say that. I never was in a prison, Jesus. I never went to the hospital, except when I was sick. I never. And Jesus would be like, when you didn't do it to the least of these, you didn't do it unto me. And I don't know about you, but like that's a scary scripture. And so I think sometimes it's like, well, to do good, you actually have to go do it. You have to, Nike, just do it.
Right.
And so I think there is a lot of, yes, go about your day and do good and don't do harm. Yeah. But then there's sometimes that it's like, hey, if you want to go to the gym, sometimes you actually have to go. You actually have to like get there and do it.
Right. I really do think for me, I can say this. To really pause and take stock of my own feelings and situation, and then to really take that deep breath and instead of just jumping, because I can be very impulsive, to see and hear the situation of another so that then I can discern by who I am and who this other person is and what their need is, how I might do good, takes some reconnaissance and some introspection for me so that I can be used by God in that way. I've told the story many times. I've used it in sermons, but I had a deep hate for nursing facilities. And yet, weirdly enough, some of the most powerful experiences of God have been in nursing homes, places I never want to go, and yet where it seems God has been most visibly present in my life. And that came out of the opportunity that presented itself and taking that step, even though I didn't want to do that. And now opening up a whole different way of understanding how God can work in the place I least want to be, which really disarms all those great arguments I've had about where I don't need to go God because Katie would be so much better at that than I would, or Ricky would be, or others are better equipped for that type of thing. The place I least want to go and the thing I least want to do oftentimes has proven to be the place where God was most powerfully present, and I had the greatest opportunity to do good and to experience good back into my own life. So this concept of doing good in the context of a relationship and an intimate relationship with a small group means getting to hear and be open to God's presence as well as the presence of the other so that I can see where I have the opportunity to do good. That's the part that's made the difference for me. It's not an easy lesson because I can jump 5 steps ahead. I'll finish people's sentences for them when that's not where they're going because I know exactly what they're going to say or where they're going with this type of thing. But to pause and actually let that unfold and to hear what the real situation is from the place of the other so that I might actually hear God's voice and guidance in how I can do good. That's something that I'm still working to embrace better, but I'm finding it to be very helpful in this. And I could say I've learned that the hard way by learning not to jump to the good before actually knowing what really was in the best interest and what was good and what was the need that was present. We call this Hope Springs Eternal, and some people have said, well, we'd like to hear more hope in all this. We can get very involved in the journey, but the hope comes in actually awakening to intimacy and vulnerability, to make ourselves more present, and to see the hope that comes in the opportunities that prevail when we engage in small group ministry, when we engage in better listening, when we open ourselves to things we would never do on our own, where God may work in ways that are beyond our abilities and desires in that way. And so maybe the hope that's here for me, for you, Ricky, and for those listening may be vastly different, but it's there if we just open ourselves to God's presence and to see others more clearly. It may give us the opportunity to do more good than we realize is available to us. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling right now, but
And do it. I mean,
and do it,
and do it.
and then go and do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, prayerfully, thoughtfully, and with compassion to do what it is that God gives us the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
I hope you find a way to do good. I hope that you consider how you might find a group of people that you could not only help support one another in this journey, but expand your breadth of influence and opportunity to do good in the lives of others. Until next week, may hope spring eternal.